Hello everyone. Today I'm going to share with you my recipe for gluten-free fresh tomato tart. This is unlike a usual tomato tart in that the tomatoes and the topping are not baked. So it really showcases the last of our summer homegrown tomatoes. And it is just divine, you guys. So let's get started. So I am using just my pie crust recipe. And I'll leave a link for that above. But you can also use my puff pastry recipe if you either have some already made up or just feel like you want it a little more puffy and flakier. But it will work with either. And what I'm doing is I'm rolling this out to about 1/4 of an inch thick. And I want it to be more rectangular. But again, I'm not so concerned with like the look of it. You can make it round if you'd rather. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's all going to taste the same. But I'm cutting off the sides here. And I want to make it just big enough to fit my small, it's like a 9 by 13 inch baking pan. And I'm using my absolute favorite kitchen tool, which is my clear see-through ruler. And also, when you remove the scraps, pile them up neatly because that will help create flakiness and layering when you go to use those scraps, and you won't be left with like a tougher dough. Now this is measuring at 10.5 by 8.5, but again, that's not so important. What's more important is the thickness, and that's about 1/4 of an inch thick. So I'm going to put it on a sheet tray and put it in the fridge right now to get cold. And then I'm going to mark, not all the way through, but I'm going to take my chef's knife and mark like a 1/2 inch border around the outside. And that is just for my own sake, so I know where I'm going to be putting the filling and where I'm going to leave the border. You don't have to do this, but I just find it easier when I am assembling the tart. But remember, don't poke it all the way through. And as always, the recipe for any of my recipes is linked in the description box below every single one of my videos. So now I'm just taking a fork and docking just the center. This is totally optional, but it really helps it bake evenly and not go all like willy-nilly, because you don't want this going all willy-nilly. And you get it into a 375-degree oven and bake it for 15 to 20 minutes until it's nice and golden brown and flaky. Now we'll make the filling, and this is just equal parts of goat cheese and cream cheese. If you don't like goat cheese, you can sub that with like feta or equal amounts of cream cheese or even maybe ricotta. And the goat cheese, though, is so good with the tomatoes, but you do you. And these were the only herbs left in my garden, and that is basil and thyme, which both go really well with tomatoes. But you can use parsley, you can use rosemary, chives, whatever you have. And then I'm adding salt, pepper, and garlic powder to this and just mixing it up. So simple. And it was really hot in my kitchen today, so when I was making this, and I could just whip it up with a fork, no problem. So we spread this on the tart and leave the edges alone, just like we wanted to. And then we put beautiful, beautiful heirloom tomatoes on here, or whatever tomatoes you have. These were the last of my garden tomatoes, and these were grown from seed by my gardener extraordinaire daughter, who grows everything from seed and then gives us all these plants, and she's just amazing. And now I am sprinkling the rest of my leftover herbs on top, which is the basil and thyme. But again, you can use whatever herbs you want. And of course, a little bit of salt and pepper. And now I'm going to cut these into squares. You can cut them into any size or shape you want. but it was just easy to take a chef's knife and go down and kind of divide them up by the tomatoes. These tomatoes, these yellow tomatoes, are incredibly sweet and juicy, and they're probably my favorite tomato. I can't remember the name of them. She had names for each of them. I want to say these were Paul Robeson tomatoes, but I could be way off with that. Dr. Whitechie, maybe. Doesn't matter. They're delicious. And that's it, you guys. It's just as simple as that for this refreshing, summer forward tomato wonderful yumminess. And I hope you enjoy it.